Hi, Riverlawn. This is Miss Bentley, fifth grade teacher. I am here to read the last two chapters in Nuts to You. So I am starting with chapter 22. Story first, fight later. Both groups of squirrels turned toward Charette. The old man chuckled. He said, "Charette, you silly girl, look around you. You're in the grove, dear." But his friends and neighbors stared at the newcomers in bewilderment. "Who are all of you?" one of them called out. "Why are you here?" someone shouted. "Why did all of you come at once?" "What do you want?" A grumbling arose. The shouts turned quickly to "Get out of here! Leave us alone!" and "Go back to your own grove!" But, said Charette. "Who's going to make us?" said Brick. He stepped forward, ready for a fight. "Yeah," said Jip. "Who?" He struck a menacing pose, just after Brick, who he hoped to use as a shield, if the going got nasty. Behind them, their baffled compatriots tensed up and prepared to defend themselves. The pups ran to their mothers. Susu, turned to Jed. "Now what?" she said. Jed jumped up onto a stump where he could be seen by everyone. "We are squirrels like you," he said. "And we brought our own nuts. May I tell you a story?" Story first, fight later, as the saying goes. Jed hoped it would hold true. He wasted no time. Amid the thick and intertwining boughs, among the limbs, branches, and leafy twigs of our grove, he began, the buzz paths ran. Even the very oldest squirrel cannot remember a time when they were not there. The squirrels crept toward him. Without planning to, they stood closer and closer together. Maybe you've been in a group of people, all listening together to a really good storyteller. Maybe it's your Uncle Norrell at Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone listens together and laughs together, and it makes us feel closer. It makes us feel like a family. Jed was a quiet squirrel. He wasn't a performer, but he forgot himself and he spoke from his heart. He was so sure now that every squirrel would want to hear this story, that they did. He told of the hawk, the new grove, the reddish squirrels, Chai and Susu, and the terrible cutting. He told how no one would listen and how they came up with the idea of the game. By the time he came to the end, which was the part right before he started telling the story, everyone felt they had been at his side through every twist and turn. That didn't mean they all believed what they were hearing. They weren't sure they were supposed to. Maybe it was just an entertainment. "Now see," said Zek. "That was so much better than the first time you told it. And you put parts about us in. That was a good idea." "I've chewed my finger claws practically down to nubs just listening," said a squirrel from the new grove. "If something like that was to actually happen, I don't know what I would do." "But it did actually happen," said Jetta. "That's the whole point. It did happen, didn't it?" All eyes turned to Jed. He looked at the sky. Through the nearly leafless trees, he could see that the sun was about to fall below the horizon. There would be light for a little while yet. "Come see for yourselves," he said. "I think there is just time." And chapter 23, Unbelievable. Dozens of squirrels looked out from the sawed-off edge of the forest. They gazed down in disbelief at the casually tossed mounds of chopped-up tree. Scraps of what had once been homes now littered the earth. The smell of freshly cut wood was overpowering. Above the wreckage, the buzz paths hung lonely and bare. "Why do they do it?" asked Charette. "Unbelievable," said Zek. Even the four friends who had known what was going to happen had trouble looking at it. "So this," said Jed to the squirrels he knew and loved, "is why we played the game. And this," speaking now to the squirrels of the new grove, "is why we came to your grove." His words fell into the silence like pebbles dropped into a pond. "I know there are a lot of us," said Susu. "But we did bring our own nuts, as many as we could. And we can bring more tomorrow," added Chuka. "I'm sure we can still find quite a lot." "We didn't have much time," said Chai. "We tried to move everyone to the closest place that was safe." As soon as the trees grow back, said Susu, we'll get out of your way. That will take a long time, I think, said Jetta. In her whole life, the growth in any one tree had been barely noticeable. Yes, she said, I think that will take a very long time. I suppose you're right, Susu said quietly. It was one of those moments where anything can happen. Something big or something small, something kind or something harsh. It's so uncertain that the first one to speak can tip it one way or the other. It must seem so rude, said Chicka, that we moved all at once into your home. Maybe tomorrow we can find somewhere else to go. What the second squirrel says is important too. In this instance, the old man from the New Grove said, Let us take it one step at a time, my dear. You have brought nuts. We shall see what we shall see. So saying, he turned and headed home. Chebby was the third to speak. He said, I think that game idea was deuced clever. I tip my cap to the squirrel who thought of it. Getting squirrels to listen, to reason, is like getting a tree to drop its nuts at your front door. Hearing this, Jip perked up. He had already forgotten about the game. The game, he cried out. Who won the game? All of the squirrels laughed then, and, as laughing is as good as stories and games, if not better, at bringing everyone together, the moment tipped them all toward togetherness. It's late, said one of the New Grove squirrels. Let's go home. All of us. And in twos or threes and fours, they began to make their way into the darkening woods. Only Jed and Susu and Chai and Chicka remained, and Jip. He was still waiting for the answer to his question. Jed, a curious expression on his face, studied the silly squirrel. You won, Jip, he said. And off Jip scrambled, hooting and hollering. I won! I won the game! What did you tell him that for? Asked Chai. We'll never hear the end of it. If you think about it, said Jed. If it wasn't for Jip, we wouldn't have known what was coming. I guess that's true, admitted Chai. I guess a lot of things might not have happened. Well, I feel like I won too, said Chicka quietly. At least for the moment. For the moment, repeated Susu. What more can a squirrel ask? Live for the moment, said Jed, but bury a lot of nuts. We're squirrels, said Chai. That goes without saying. That's how we roll. He turned to Chicka and said, Race you to the grove? You're on, she answered. And they were off. I guess we'd better go too, said Jed. He and Susu had not yet moved from their perches. Twilight had deepened into night. I feel so strange, said Susu. I don't know whether to be really happy or really sad. I know what you mean, said Jed. I know exactly what you mean. A sliver of moon came out from behind a passing cloud. Pale silvery light threw faint shadows from the new stumps onto the earth, and it lit up small spots of white, all along the edge of the new clearing. Susu peered at the spots. They weren't mushrooms. They weren't in clumps. They weren't spaced out at intervals. What were they? The scent of cut wood was strong, but another scent found her nose then, and she sniffed. She sniffed and she smiled. What are you looking at? Asked Jed. Why are you smiling? Come with me, she said. He followed her down into the clearing. Something smells really good, he said, his nose twitching, but I don't know what it is. Do you smell it? Yes, said Susu. I do. Here, taste this. She handed him one of the white spots. A creamy substance covered one side of it. Wow, said Jed. What is this? It's a message, she said. A message? Asked Jed. What does it say? I don't know exactly, admitted Susu. But I think it's a nice message. It's a tasty message, said Jed. Are there any more? There are, she said. They had a few of the messages, then made their way to the new grove. They went slowly. It had been a long, long day. A long few days, really. And they were exhausted. But mostly they had so much to talk about that they weren't in a hurry. It was unusual to be outside in the night. So unusual that they were unaware of the dangers. Owls, for example. But it may be that fortune decided to give them a break this once. They marveled at how the stars shimmered through the autumn branches. The sliver of moon glimmered in the deep black sky. There were sounds they weren't used to. It was interesting how, although they could not see very well, the scent of friends old and new led them surely and unmistakably along. When they reached their nest, they had to laugh. The nest Susu had made with the pups, now with their parents, was a shambles, and Jed had been too busy urging everyone else along to do more than toss an occasional twig or bit of fluff onto his own heap. "We'll do better tomorrow," said Jed. "Will you be warm enough? I can give you some of my leaves." "I'll be fine," said Susu. "I'm so tired. I could sleep under a single blade of grass." Jed laughed. "Good night, my friend," he said, and "Thank you." "It was nothing," she said, though they each knew it was not nothing. It was not nothing at all. "Nuts to you, Jed," she said. "See you in the morning." Jed stayed out for just a moment longer. He was tired, but still too wound up for sleep. He sat on the limb and considered the stars, the unbelievableness of all these recent events, the infinite variety of squirrels. His mind was so full. He was beginning to shiver, though. And then something large rustled in the undergrowth below and sent him diving for cover. A reflex. Once inside, even the hastily made dray captured his own warmth. It grew pleasantly cozy, and Jed grew pleasantly drowsy. Before he drifted off, he sent a silent good-night wish to Susu. Imagine, he thought, having the courage to leave your grove, to find a friend snatched by a hawk. That's not nothing, he thought. That is definitely something. Nuts to you, my friend, he thought. Nuts to us all. I hope you are enjoying the book, and there is one more part left, I believe, the epilogue. Thank you so much for reading and watching. Bye.